Well, as you may or may not have heard, the Senate did an early Thursday morning vote. Of course, 51 to 48. The Democrats couldn't handle it, but voted 48 against it anyways, to take its first step, or should we say concrete step, towards getting rid of the non-Affordable Care Act known as Obamacare, when it voted to instruct key committees to draft legislation repealing Barack Obama's signature health insurance program. Republicans needed a simple majority to clear the repeal rules, instructing committees to begin drafting repeal legislation through the upper chamber, with the vote falling, of course, largely on party lines. Rand Paul was the lone Republican actually to vote against the budget resolution because it didn't balance. Paul said in a statement after the vote that while he supports nixing Obamacare, putting nearly $10 trillion more in debt on the American people's backs through a budget that never balances is not the way to get there, he said. Meanwhile, no Democrats supported the repeal rules. Instead, Democrats rose one by one from their seats on the Senate floor in protest to state why they were voting against the resolution. In dramatic fashion, Bernie Sanders, yeah, that Bernie Sanders, warned that if the GOP resolution moved forward, Americans would die. Up to 30 million Americans will lose their health care, with many thousands dying as a result, he said. Because when you have no health insurance and you can't go to a doctor or hospital, you die. Really, it's that cut and dry. I didn't know that. Sanders also mocked the Republican effort, saying the GOP have never united around an alternative to Obamacare. They want to kill the ACA, but they have no idea how they are going to bring forth a substitute proposal, declared Bernie Sanders. One of my favorite people to not like, Dianne Feinstein, who had surgery to install a pacemaker. Too bad that surgery didn't go bad. Missed the hours-long vote-a-rama session that began Wednesday evening. Lawmakers were able to use the hours-long voting block to force a vote on any amendment to the budget resolution. Some 180 amendments were filed. And as the Hill said, the late-night passage of the budget resolution comes despite deep divisions on when and how to replace Obamacare, which were on full display. Lawmakers spent more than 6 hours on the Senate floor and voted on more than 19 amendments, none of which were successfully added to the resolution. But Republicans managed to avoid what was expected to be the top fight of the night when a group of 5 GOP senators dropped their push to delay the Obamacare repeal legislation. Lawmakers had wanted to push the deadline for committee repeal proposals from January 27th to March, which they argued was needed to give lawmakers extra time to lock down details on a replacement bill and work with the incoming Trump administration about next steps. And Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee, one of the Republicans backing the amendment, said the decision was a result of a very thoughtful discussion with Republicans and recognizing that the January 27th date is a placeholder. And Senator Bob Portman from Ohio added that we have assurances from leadership that this date is not a date that is set in stone. And Texas Senator John Cornyn, McConnell's deputy, had warned that pushing back the date could create a jam on the Senate floor, with GOP lawmakers wanting to tackle an ambitious agenda with President-elect Donald Trump's first 100 days. You got that right. You got that right. There's going to be some ambitious crap happening inside those chambers. When Donald Trump says, in my first 100 days, XYZ, Donald Trump means in his first 100 days, XYZ. When President Obama said what he's going to do, and I'm going to go after the Wall Street bankers, and I'm going to have the most open government, and we're not going to pass any laws until you get to read them. And yeah, when he says it, none of it happens. Like pretty much everything else he said. If you make $250,000 or less a year as a family, you will not see any tax increases. except for the Obamacare tax that you, if you don't have health care, have to pay. And the Supreme Court had to rule on that. Is it a tax or is it's a tax? Oh, another one bites the dust. Another thing Obama said he would do bites the dust. The resolution now goes to the House of Representatives, which is expected to vote on it this week. Scrapping Obamacare, albeit without a ready replacement, has become a top priority for most Republican majorities in both chambers and Republican President-elect Donald Trump. Now this was, it's Thursday this week. I guess we got Friday and Saturday. Maybe they're going to potentially get in the House and have them handle it. But I am totally for getting rid of this piece of garbage legislation. If you tell me who said this. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health care, you can keep your health care. Oh, sorry, no, we can't. You got to go to one of the exchanges. All right, I'll go to one of the exchanges. Oh, no, doctor's not on there. Can't go see him. What? Oh, okay. Interesting. So, a recent story, just to give you a little bonus. My sister, I'm going to go get Obamacare. But apparently only her and her husband had it, but the kids need it too. So you might qualify for subsidy Obamacare, but you first have to go to Medicaid. Apply to Medicaid first for your kids specifically. Okay. If they deny you, then come back. Okay, but we can't come down. Yeah, you got to be denied first, and you have to have a letter. Okay. So she goes over there. Oh, let me do this. Nope. You're not approved. Here's your denial letter. Okay, take that. Go back to the Obamacare exchange. I've got a denial letter. Now will you take my kids? Yeah, we'll take them. Why can't this just be as simple, you go to Amazon. Oh, let me buy that. Don't even have to put in my credit card. I just log in with my account. Buy. Yes. 2-day shipping, of course. Done. Have a nice day. Maybe you want to buy a car. You could make it that easy. Go right down to the dealership. I'm not even going to hassle with you on the price. I want this new Corvette. I'd love to have a Corvette, but don't have one. I want this new Corvette, and you're asking $50K? No problem. Here we go. Sign me up. Sign here, sir. Financing. Yep. Okay, here's your keys. Have a nice day. And I know there's some paperwork to fill out and initial this, and I get it. But they don't tell you, well, I need you to go across the street. There's another department over there. Take this with you. If they don't sign off on that, come back, and then we'll have our guy sign off on it, and then we can go forward. You would say, why don't you just get your guy to sign off on it now so I don't have to go across the freaking street? Well, it's just policy. Okay, let me go across the street. I'm going to get hit by a car. Let me play Frogger on my way over. Oh, got a couple bonus points. I double jumped over there. Fantastic. Why is this even necessary? Why do we have to do, everything with government is some kind of extra step, loophole, jump through a loop? Oh, you didn't do that. You got to go back. Oh, that's because that's what this is. It's what they do best. Write legislation that makes absolutely no sense. Fill it with complete garbage, pork, things that don't make sense, definitions of things that don't even define anything. Other doctors. What other doctor? Well, it's for us to decide. The death. What were those? The death panels. Remember those? The little subsection C. My favorite. Death panels. They didn't call it that. They don't want to call it that. But I will say this, and this is from an older Webbot report. It's been more than one, by the way. But one of the reports was just more detailed, and it talked about the collapsing healthcare. Collapsing healthcare. And this could be it. Now, number one, you might, as much as someone may want to end up blaming Trump should this healthcare system collapse and say, oh, they should have never repealed Obamacare, it's their fault, they got to live with it. No. It was already imploding on itself. Was it the budget office that had said, we estimate, it'll cost this much? And then after it passed, we had to revise that. We now say over the next 10 years it's going to cost this. And it was like, oh my God, how did you miss those numbers? Well, mistake, revision, just a little minute revision. Had to move that over a couple decimal points, if you know what I mean. The exchanges, there was like 24. Now there's literally just a tiny handful, just a few. Literally, I think you can count on one hand how many exchanges are left. The healthcare companies, constantly, every freaking year, 20% raise increase, 30%, 40, 30, 28. It's all over the place. Every year they're doing this. Didn't make enough last year. Too many sick people. Too many sick people. Used up too much of our insurance. We're not making money. We are losing. We need to request a pay raise, so to speak. Well, there goes everybody. That's the problem when people who aren't sick are forced to pay for people who are very sick and have very high cost healthcare needs, such as tens of thousands of dollars potentially of healthcare needs, or just multiple thousands of dollars each time they go get healthcare or whatever they're getting. We got to foot the bill. So I don't know what system can replace that other than a massive government subsidy, which means what? We got to borrow a bunch more money, which means what? Less money for Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare, everything. It's just, I don't know what they can replace it with, but whatever it is, again, it's imploding on itself anyways. It's going to be destroyed by itself even if they didn't do anything. It was a failed piece of legislation that made one company filthy rich with their, wasn't it like $1 billion website? The healthcare website ultimately cost around $1 billion or some nonsense. And I've already discussed that. Could you imagine any website on the entire face of the earth costing even $500 million? I'll do one better, $100 million. What are you going to do? What kind of infrastructure could you possibly put up that would need $100 million in servers and bandwidth and data center, for people to go online and sign up for some service? You know what I mean? It's not even possible. So we can only hope that the House passes this resolution. Because here's the other thing. Let's say they don't, and we're stuck with Obamacare for a bit. As I said, it's collapsing anyways. And if it's going to collapse anyways, the webbot's still going to get right anyways. Doesn't matter, does it? So, stay tuned is all I can say. Let's see what happens with this turd.